now, should we, from UNICEF spokesperson James Elder. Hello to you, Mr. Elder. Thank you for joining us on the programme this morning. Just hearing from one of our government ministers saying that a second opportunity to get into Gaza has opened up this morning, where goods can be checked before going around to Rafah. Will that ease the issues?
In a way, in a very, very small way, unfortunately, Kay. Obviously, the more aid that can come in is important. This intensity of the bombardments, the ground offensive, the complete lack of a ceasefire, they mean a couple of things. One, they mean is you do have these hundreds of thousands of people. Now, that takes a long time to get them sufficient water and sanitation, and they are in places with absolutely nothing. The other is they're coming, Kay, from such a low baseline. Their capacity's been reduced. They're on their knees, quite literally. And then, of course, the streets are so congested. You know, this place is very chaotic right now. It's very difficult, again, to get aid from A to B. So all these things point to, yes, the more openings, the better. But the only game in town should be for the bombardments to stop. Otherwise, we are fighting on two fronts: humanitarian crisis in water and sanitation and aerial bombardments. That's what the people keep facing.
I put that to our government minister, our defence secretary, a few moments ago, and he says it's not as simple as a humanitarian pause.
Sorry, I missed the question. But look, I mean, I can't go tit for tat with the government minister, of course, but if you're a family on the ground, okay, if the colleague I spoke to yesterday whose mother had not had clean water for 24 hours and 3-year-old daughter had not had clean water for 24 hours, they've lost their ability now to stay safe. They're consistently on the move. They've been on the move for three different times. They've moved from safe places. Their family home's been attacked. They've lost loved ones. They are now at the cusp of seeing a disease outbreak without that access to safe water, which will only come through a ceasefire. So to those people on the ground, life and death is remarkably simple, and life and death does sit with some type of pause, getting us back to where we were, a ceasefire, something to allow aid agencies to massively get aid across, remembering we're barely even reaching those people in the north, Kay.
Reports of Hamas and the Israeli Defence Force in street-to-street fighting. What impact does that have on so-called safe zones?
I think it just underlines that even when a safe zone is designated, a so-called safe zone, getting there is very difficult. When I was in Gaza, just to see, I mean, there's no transport. People do get hit sometimes on the road by artillery or shrapnel from bombing. So it's very, very difficult to move. Then, of course, when they get to these places, they're grossly lacking the services. So, you know, both fighting parties, this is why we keep saying, if both fighting parties are fighting in densely populated areas, and we imagine that is the case, certainly that's from what I saw and what I'm being told, that's the case, then you've also added 1.5 million people there. You know, you've added another million from the north. It belies any rational sense that civilians can't be being caught up in this. So again, it's both sides, it's all parties. However you want to phrase it, Kay, it has to be that these two warring parties have to sit down, because otherwise we are going to just keep seeing these numbers of children killed spiral, and we are seeing this perfect storm for disease. Lack of water, lack of sanitation, lack of food, you know, and the rain. I mean, the storm, people are in the storm. Now it's about, can we pull back from this, I guess, humanitarian hurricane on the ground, much less the one coming from the air.
James, I'll be chatting to a representative of the Israeli government in the 9 o'clock hour, and I want to put to him, Mr. Regev, the video that we have seen over the weekend of partially clothed men, blindfolded, hands tied behind their backs. I wondered if you had a view on that video, which I'm sure you've seen over the weekend.
Look, UNICEF and the Convention of the Rights of the Child case very, very clear on when children are detained, on the rights children must have, and we've spoken to that now, not just since the atrocities of the 7th, but we've spoken to that consistently because many, many children are detained from the West Bank. So we're very clear on that. It's hard, obviously, to make any great statement on images, but it does just speak again to children. It speaks again to why can't these parties step back from the brink and save what looks like many thousands now of Palestinian children whose life hangs in the balance, and those Israeli children who are somewhere, we imagine, in a bunker, utterly terrified, and that torment as well. So I know it's said that it's not this straightforward, but for those children and those families, they only see one way out of this.
I did want to ask you about the Israeli youngsters who are still held, we believe, in the tunnels beneath Gaza. As each day passes, the hope of release of those hostages is fading, is it?
I don't know. I follow as much as we all do the discussions in Qatar and the absolute criticality of that. I mean, when I was in Gaza, Kate, it's very important to keep looking at parents and talking to them and trying to understand, at least so I can try and convey the heartache that they now face for the rest of their life as they watch, hold their child while that child dies. I cannot still for the life of me imagine the torment those families are going through knowing that child is there. And it does seem, yes, that the discourse has moved away from that. And again, we talk of level of bombardment and so-called safe zones and ground defensiveness. It unsettles me and UNICEF greatly that we've taken this sense of compassion and empathy of children out of the discourse. And it again is a very militaristic conversation. And I think that's problematic now, deeply so for those Israeli parents and those parents in Gaza. But it's problematic, I think, anyway, Kay, if this is the new way that we see major crises, not through the lens of what it's doing to children.
OK, for now, thank you.